Question 1. What was common to some of the most iconic and exclusive luxury hotel groups that came up during the last few decades? Groups like Aman Resorts, One and Only, and Six Senses. Answer: they were all built by driven and ambitious founders. Question 2. What happened to them? Answer: the founders eventually lost control of the groups that they had built. Question 3. Why? Answer: they over-leveraged themselves financially. Question 4. Where are we going with all of this? What does this have to do with first principles? Answer: because today we're discussing two things. How do you build a founder-led luxury hotel group out of India? And how does a founder who builds this avoid losing control of it eventually? I first met Kapil Chopra in 2017 when he was the president of Oberoi Hotels, arguably India's finest luxury hotel group. But by 2018, the very next year, Kapil had quit his job and started a new boutique luxury hotel group called Postcard Hotels. It has 9 hotels currently operational, while another 23 are being built. I asked Kapil how many hotels was he hoping to build. His answer: as many as I can. With Postcard Hotels, Kapil wants to do two things. First, he wants to challenge and disrupt notions of what we take for granted in hotels. Little things like check-ins and check-outs being decided by the customer and not the hotel management. Having breakfast whenever it pleases you and being greeted with a local cocktail on arrival rather than the sugary drinks we're used to are just some of the little touches that are all important parts of this experience. Secondly, Kapil also wants to create a business model where the postcard group can be ambitious and as risk taking as required, but without endangering his control as a founder. To do this, he has structured the operating parent company to be isolated from the hotels themselves, so the operating company cannot over leverage itself. Welcome to the 50th episode of First Principles regular programming, not counting our occasional supercut episodes, of course. And we're marking that milestone by carrying my conversation with Kapil in full this week. I'm Rohin Dharmakumar, your host. Thank you for listening. Let's get started. Kapil, there's one word which I'll use to describe you, and I don't know if others have told you this or not. It's restless.
Hmm.
I think I've known you since 2017 or so, while you were still president at Oberoi Hotels, and it was always restless. Um, it always appeared to me that you're in. If there was a way that you could be in 3 places at the same time, you would do that. There's always something else happening, and you're always in a hurry. Am I wrong in the way I see you? I mean, or are you really restless and always in a hurry?
A lot of people think I kind of work 24 hours, really. A lot of people, I take a lot of breaks. And a lot of people miss that. I think the biggest benefit I've had in my life is sleep. I can really sleep. I can sleep here as we record this. You tell me I'll be asleep in 5 minutes and I'll wake up again and start again. So it's not restless, but I just think there is so much opportunity that I see around myself. But it's very important to kind of focus. So I always get an idea a day, and it's very important that I say no, no, no. We're only going to do this, and we're going to stay focused. So I think. You know, I remember many years back, I was coming up the hotel business, and there was a very nice gentleman. I still remember his name, Trevor Burton, and he used to run human resources at Hyatt for Asia Pacific region. And Hyatt had to promote me to an international position that time, and they could not because 9/11 happened. Due to which I would quit and finally.
You worked for 2 years at Hyatt.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
roughly
yeah,
around.
yeah, nearly 3. So then I quit Hyatt, and I'd already joined the Taj in Delhi, and Hyatt could not, because Hyatt could not fulfill a promise that they had given to me in writing to move me to Hong Kong and run their flagship, the Grand Hyatt in Hong Kong. And but they were kind enough to come and see me again. And he called me and he said, we're opening a new hotel in Mumbai. It's called the Grand Hyatt in Mumbai. And I want you to be the resident manager of that hotel. So it's quite a leg up. A resident manager is like the number two in a hotel. It's like a 400, 500 room hotel with 100 residences. So big operation, bigger than the one that I was running at the Taj in Delhi. And so I told him, I said, but when you guys had defaulted on a promise, Taj really stepped in. And so I can't leave. And why am I telling you the story is he says, Kapil, I really appreciate it. And we had a drink together and it was very good. And I asked him and I said, do you have any advice for me? And Trevor said something very nice, which just kind of stayed on with me. He says, whether you will get from point A to point B, um, that'll always happen. But I want you to enjoy the journey because the journey is what is important. And that kind of stayed with me. And now when you say this, it kind of comes back to me. I've tried to, in spite of working all the time, enjoy the journey. And yeah, it's been what, 20 years since Trevor and I last met.
Thank you for that. We'll get into postcard hotels. But really, I want to ask you, what does untitled mean? The parent company
Yeah.
like that runs postcard is called Untitled. Why Untitled? What does that word mean to you?
That's a great question, Rohin. Untitled was, when we wanted to do a brand. So I wanted to really say, how do you classify hotels? Because for me, hotels had become so cookie cutter. Means you pick up one hotel and put it in another destination, same. So hotels had no character. They were becoming like cookie cutter sheets. You cut cookies, you cut 1 lakh cookies, you make 1 lakh rooms. Hotels were losing the soul for which they existed. And I thought travel was losing all its romance. So, because I follow contemporary art and I'm a contemporary art collector also. So I said, let's look at Picasso. Means I just come back from Barcelona from the Picasso Museum, and most of his works are untitled. If you really go and study Picasso, he didn't title most of his works. So I said, if every hotel is going to be an artwork, then we should call our hotels Untitled. Okay, and that was supposed to be the first name of the brand. It was supposed to be Untitled Hotels. It's supposed to be the Untitled,
But you
Goa or
chose
whatever.
postcard.
We did a consumer survey and
It was a little
we said
Untitled was a little too
when we said
confused.
Untitled, and people said, okay, that's great, but what's the name of the hotel? And we said it's called Untitled. And so we realized in a consumer survey that the name wouldn't fly, and we couldn't go to every customer and say, but Picasso did not title his works, so we had to call it Untitled.
All right. Some of the other names, based on our research that came up, were marmalade
Yes.
and foam.
Yes.
What's I'm trying to understand what's common between marmalade and foam and Untitled and postcard, what
So
were
when we
you
were
looking for?
so when we were looking at what should we call the brand, so there's a gentleman called Rizwan who used to be the creative head for Wyden and Kennedy, and he started his own firm called Propaganda. And Rizwan and I, we were working together on this brief. So we gave him the brief of what the hotel brand is all about: experiential, transformational stays. Kind of told him the whole story, and we started looking at what word would define the brand the best. So when we look at foam, foam is the foam on your cappuccino, the foam in your pillow. That's what our holidays are all about. Close your eyes and think about it. The foam on your cappuccino, the foam in your pillow. Marmalade is about, you generally have a marmalade when you're on a holiday because you start experimenting. You love the orange rind and the taste. So so the whole point was we wanted to create a holiday brand, but then postcard just filled it beautifully, because when people used to travel 20, 30 years back and they used to love a destination, they used to buy postcards and write. So it was more about creating memories. It was about stays which stayed with you longer, many years after you checked out. So we said, yeah, this kind of defines a brand better.
It's a great time for me to ask you, what is postcard hotels? How would you describe it?
So I think Postcard Hotel is very simply, if I may put it in one line, the Postcard Hotel is a hotel all about transformational experiences. So I believe hotels can be classified into 5 different parts. So the first level is commodity. Yeah, so you put a bed, an air conditioner. So most of your budget hotel companies are commodity. We will build 1 million rooms. All you need is a bed, AC, bathroom. That's it. You can roll it out. It's got nothing else. It's cookie cutter straight. I think the second level of hotels, and I'm looking at it, Rohin, on an axis of premium and differentiation. Highest premium, highest differentiation category. Second axis is product. So you will see some great hotels, some great products. There are enough examples. They're not branded, but the owner had a great vision of making a great hotel, so he made a great hotel. Yeah, and the third lever is where all the luxury hotels come, which is service. So I've got a great product, I've got great service. All your luxury hotels actually come into that category. The fourth lever of actually this is experiential. So Airbnb comes and says, all this is great, but you know what? If you are in Paris, you should overlook the Eiffel Tower when you wake up in the morning. That's experiential. When you come down, you should have your espresso, have a croissant, like a French does. Any of the French locals do. And the fifth level is transformative experiences. When you combine all of them, if you're able to give a good product, have great world class service, have great experiential experiences, so you soak in the destination, then if you add all of this together, it becomes transformational. Think about it. Airbnb, 90% of Airbnb revenues actually come in from Europe and and the US and South America. Why? Because in Asia, you're not guaranteed of hygiene, electricity, water, and just that Asia has great hotels. So you don't want to really stay in an Airbnb. Now it's catching up with Thailand and all, going a lot, but still. Predominantly, the revenues come from that part of the world. So you don't. There is no guarantee that if you take a villa in Goa, it is hygienic. It has electricity. It has water. So it's very difficult for it to work. So when you add all of this together, and if you can live in Goa like a local would in the village of Saligao, and you still have world class food coming onto your plate, and the service is still impeccable, it kind of stays with you. And when I call about transformational, so every hotel, when we go to Postcard, we look at transformational holidays. So our point is, what is it that you would remember long after you've checked out? So if you've ever stayed at a Postcard hotel, you will see enough touch points for you to carry the hotel back home, whether it's a organic cotton tote bag that people carry for 4 5 years. So I got a great call from the CEO of American Express 3 days back in the evening at around 9, and I said maybe something's gone wrong. And we work very closely with them on Easy Diner, less on Postcard right now. And he said, Kapil, I was just coming out of the airport and three people ahead of me had bags with the Postcard baggage tag on it. So the whole idea is we need you to take the brand home so it stays with you. And while you are in the hotel, we need to create transformative experiences. So, what is a transformative experience? Let me give a real example. We have a hotel in coastal Karnataka, the Postcard on the Arabian Sea, 0 meters from the sea. So, first of all, that itself is transformational. But so is Maldives, 0 meter from the sea. Don't need to just be restricted to India. But early in the morning, if you want breakfast in the ocean, we actually take you into a separate port where you are there and your partner's there, and that's it. And absolutely, that's it. And there's, of course, one more person. That's it. And you are in the middle of the Arabian Sea and you're watching the sunrise happen. 10 years later, when I was to ask you which was the best sunrise you've ever seen in your life, you will say the Postcard on the Arabian Sea, because, I was alone. I was in the middle of the vast ocean. Dolphins were jumping by. If I was lucky to see them, that would be a great experience. So that experience would stay with you. And that is the category that Postcard aims at. When was, like, for example, Rohan, I've worked all my life in hotels. Yeah. I don't know how tea is made. I have no clue. I know there's a tea garden. I know there are leaves. How are leaves plucked? How are they processed? So, for example, at the Postcard in the Durham Tea State, if you go, which is opening the next 2 months, you will never be able to buy commercial tea after you've had tea there. You just will not be able to. And I'm a tea drinker. I drink like 5 cups a day, and I'll never be able to. I've never been able to drink it since my visit there, because I get my teas from there. They're fresh. They are not 9 months old like all the packaged teas that you get in India. They are not chemically treated. They are fresh, and from the tea leaf to getting CTC tea, it just basically takes a day. So one of the experiences there is you'll pluck your own leaves, and by the time you're checking out, maybe in a day or two, you get your own plucked tea, all processed, given to you. And we show you the entire processing process. So
So,
that's transformational.
so that's transformational. So, Postcard Hotels is a transformational hotel chain. We'll come back to that later. How many hotels do you have right now?
So we have 9 open, Rohin, and we are building 23. So that's
Wow.
huge because nobody's actually built hotels really from scratch. People like rebranding, people like putting a badge on, but we are
So you're
built
building 23 additional hotels from scratch.
from scratch. Yes.
All right. Uh, does your so you're I mean, yes, you're a founder. You will say that you're a transformational hotel chain. Uh, is does it reflect in any way in your revenue mix? Is the way you make money as a hotel chain fundamentally similar to what most other luxury or boutique chains do as well, or is there like a difference in how your revenue mix is? Since you've worked in hospitality for so many decades, is there a difference?
So the way you earn is pretty much the same, but I'll tell you the basic difference is. Let me give you some numbers. So I can say, so every even a budget hotel company today says it's experiential. Yeah, I think the word transformational will also be abused in 2 years. Yeah, so but that's okay. See, the point is, if you really look at the average room rate at the Postcard Hotel for last year ending was 32,093, which I think is nearly double that of the nearest chain in this country. Easy for me to do because I'm still smaller, but actually all the more expensive hotels are opening right now. So it's double the average room rate that customers are paying. Our verified, so this is not I'm saying it's great or whatever, but our verified score on booking.com for a chain is 9.6, which is the highest in the world for any chain. It's higher than Mandarin Oriental, higher than Aman Resorts, higher than Oberoi Hotels and Resorts where I worked, higher than any other chain in the world. And the chain is classified with as anything more than 5 hotels. Yeah. And this is verified reviews. That means Rohin paid. After he paid, he was allowed to post a review on TripAdvisor. And also, what happens is when you are curating every stay for a guest, your direct bookings go up significantly. So, just to give you a number, for every single hotel company that I've worked in, and I've worked in three before this, direct bookings were never more than 10%. Postcard is 70% direct. So 70% of our customers will either come to our website directly or call us directly to book, which I think is unreal. Means I keep on checking that number every month because it's a bit unbelievable.
It's great because it means you're not paying. Is that, I mean,
That's
that's a
that's huge
reductive
because
way.
it's great from a financial perspective, but it's also great from an engagement perspective because your guests then kind of
You're in
stay with
direct
you.
connection
Your
with your
direct
guests.
connection, and at the end of the day, although it's a negative word, but I'll still use it. The whole idea is we want Postcard to be a cult hotel brand. So people who stay at Postcard Hotels only stay at Postcard Hotels, and that is why the ramp up is so fast because we are saying why would you want to go and stay somewhere else? That's the whole
Got it.
idea.
When did you start?
December 2018, in a big press conference, we launched three hotels on the same day. So 18 December is when it started. Real work on Postcard started from 1st of February 2018 to start building the hotels and start kind of, we had taken over three old, beautiful structures in Goa. Two of them were old Portuguese estates to kind of turn them around and make them.
Hi, it's Alt Rohin again. You know, the other Rohin who interrupts the conversation a few times to tell you about something important? Are you subscribed to the First Principles Sunday newsletter? I started it last May as a way to assimilate and extend some of the discussions and topics from our podcast. But over time, the Sunday newsletter has taken a life of its own. Yes, it still has self reflection, lifelong learning, and career growth at its core, but it also has sections on books, photography, and interesting articles. There's also a vibrant global community of readers who send in their recommendations and tips and photos. Last week, we published a timely summer playlist, which, in my humble opinion, is eclectic, vibey, and must listen. You can subscribe to the newsletter for free. Thank God some of the wonderful things in life are still free, just like this podcast, too. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Okay, that's all I had to say. Back to the episode. One of the intriguing things about how you're building this is now, how are you funding now? You have 9 hotels, you have 23 more coming up, and these are not cheap, I would assume.
Mhm.
uh, so Is it venture capital? Is it private equity? Because in our research, one of the things that came out, which I want to understand from you, is the business model is based on a two-pronged strategy of an outright buyout or a long-term lease to ensure a quick turnaround of the property. I don't know what that means. There, I know. So, would you tell us, like, how are you funding this expansive bet that you're doing?
So it's an interesting story again. So I ran Easy Diner, yeah, and first time I went out to raise capital for Easy Diner. Okay, they said founder is not full time because I was at Oberoi, although I was in a non-executive position. Then when I came on full time, they said, but Zomato and Swiggy can also do it. And my response was, but then Google can do what Zomato and Swiggy also do. Means they have more data than anybody else in the world. So that was so finally I kind of realized that unlike in the internet startup world where you're fighting your rivals who may are also deeply mired into losses, I was fighting very strong balance sheets. Where you look at the three top chains, Oberoi is family owned, 80 years. Taj is owned by Tata's. ITC Hotels is owned by ITC. Marriott's global 8,000 hotels. When I started, there were 6,500 hotels. So means we were like walking into like the best boys in the business. And a hotel takes a lot of money. I've wanted to be an entrepreneur since 2007. Actually, Untitled was never the first name. In 2007, the first name was Insignia. Yeah. But I never had the money. How could a middle class guy start building these absolutely amazing hotels? But I will answer the funding question first. So we said if we need unlimited access to capital, unlimited access, that means we just don't have to raise money. We just raised one round. And we've had a rule at the Postcard Hotel, Rohin. We've never approached a venture capital fund or even an angel investor. If somebody's called us and said, Couple, we love what you're building, and a lot of them have, we'd love to come in. You're more than welcome to come in if we like you. Okay. Otherwise, we've never ever pitched to a venture capital fund except before we launched the brand. After we launched the brand, we've never gone. It was built as an antithesis to the entire venture capital business because now, for example, we are opening the postcard in Tirupati. That's finally by the time it's completed could be close to 100 million. That's the fund size of most of the funds in this country. And the whole point was
Sorry,
it,
100 million is the cumulative amount of investment that's gone into
with
postcard
land.
hotels.
No,
Or
just
just
just the
Tirupati.
Tirupati means the hotels are an expensive business. Land rates in Tirupati are 80 crores an acre. So it won't be 100 for Tirupati. Tirupati would be, I think, 55, 60 million. Yeah, but add another one, it's 100 million. So, so my point is, we wanted unlimited access to capital so that we could build this absolutely amazing world-class hotels. And due to which we kind of followed a model where we looked at people who already had the assets, the land or whatever, and we could go and develop with them. Or we looked at, think about it, Rohin, you are a big private equity fund, or let's say DMI or BlackRock or Blackstone or any of these, and you want to invest in hotels in India. How do you do it? You come to Delhi. The cost of real estate in India is ridiculous, maybe because of cash transactions. Means it's cheaper to buy in the US than buy here, or buy anywhere in the world than buy here. So what would you do? So you would sink $200 million into a hotel in Delhi, and then COVID would happen, and then you'd bleed to death, or would you hedge your bets and say, I'm going to do $30 million, $20 million, 20 hotels with Postcard. Okay, and we're going to create iconic destinations, and even if one destination is down, the second destination will pick up. Yeah, so if Goa is down, maybe Sri Lanka picks up, and that's happened. That
So
we've
your investors are largely private equity funds
so
or
it's
sovereign
so
funds?
we are agnostic to who you are, whether you are a private equity fund. So for example, Postcard Ranthambore is a real estate fund building it. Yes, Tirupati is a private owner building it. In some cases where we feel that you've got a great piece of land, Rohin, and you don't know how to monetize it, we will come in and buy it ourselves from our own internal accruals. So that's how we are building it. So we have unlimited access to capital today and partners as we build it. Today, every single major real estate group in this country has reached out to us to say, we'd love to work with you. Can we do a JV? And our response to that is no. Because the moment I do a JV with any real estate
It's a
developer,
joint
I'm
venture.
restricting. It's a joint venture. So, and I don't want to restrict. So, we are
Sorry,
open
how is it different from like you doing a joint venture with a real estate group? How would it be fundamentally different from you doing a partnership with, let's say, a landowner or someone else?
because I can do it with 100 landowners. I don't
Also,
need to
this is
keep on
not
them.
at the corporate level, you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
It's at the hotel
At
level.
a hotel level, we're very happy to work with every single real estate developer, and we are actually.
All right. Um, I I met you first in 2017 while you were president at Oberoi Hotels. As you've already said, like you're in 2018 is when you launched Postcard Hotel. So obviously that means that you were seeing something. You worked with Oberoi, if I'm not mistaken, for what, 23 years?
Um, uh, 20 years nearly,
20 years, right?
19, 20 years, yeah.
So you obviously saw something which made you quit and start up. What was it? What did you see back then in terms of trends that made you think that there's a business opportunity here?
So I think the rule number one really, Rohin, comes to the fact that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. The problem was that my job was great. Yeah, means President of
We've
Oberoi is a
talked about, yeah.
yeah, it's
Is this some version of the golden handcuff? You're
yeah,
working with one
it's
of the best known.
yes, exactly. It's a very good job. It paid phenomenally well. It had great social status. So for somebody to move away, it requires a lot of discipline and a lot of mental inner mental strength. And so I was very clear. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but again, the dreams I had needed a very strong plan. It's just that if I come and run a small hotel somewhere, it's never going to fulfill the ambitions we had. So something amazing was happening globally, Rohim, and that was the best part. Um, People travel for two reasons: people travel for work, and people travel for leisure. In the world of leisure, what was happening was that you look at three brands which I would classify in the transformational level 5 category over experiential were Aman Resorts, Six Senses, and One and Only. So, in my own understanding, I don't know how they say it, but in my own understanding as a luxury hotelier, I believe that Aman said design is everything. So all of their hotels are all about great design. Yeah, I mean, of course, they're about great service too, because these are transformational hotels. And Six Senses said wellness is a key part of your being. And One and Only said lifestyle is everything. So every time you looked at a One and Only brochure, it showed a family or a couple having a great time, never showed you any photographs of the hotel. So it was all about lifestyle. Yeah. So I looked at all these three pillars and I said, these three people changed the way the world holidays in the luxury segment. Yeah. Means all the other chains, whether it's Four Seasons or Mandarin Oriental, are divided. They have a good resort, good city hotel. These three chains never had any city hotels that time. Now they have. And so I looked at them and I said, what is common? And Rohin, everybody gets
Founders.
lost control. Yeah. So the founders were
They were
amazing.
founder led and
They were
founders
all
who
founder
lost
led
control.
and founders who lost control. The most common thing was that the founders lost control of the brands they built. Amazing. So the world of leisure hospitality had no global leadership. And I looked at city hotels. You had Conrad Hilton for Hilton, Bill Marriott for Marriott, Mr. Oberoi for Oberoi, Isadora Shah for Four Seasons. That was still very, very recent and there. And I said, how can the 50% of the people travel for leisure? But globally, there is no leadership. There is no global leader. All the global leaders have lost control of the brands. So, emotionally, there is a space if we build a world class global luxury hotel brand. That was point one. Point two was data. Let's look at hard data because I'm a data person. India gets 10 million inbound foreign travel tourists into India. Yeah. Out of this 10 million, only 1 million is luxury. Yeah. So 1 million. So we've kind of made the entire Rajasthan and Kerala two big sectors for 1 million tourists. That's it. Now let's look at India. India had 2.1 billion domestic trips. So when you've come from Bangalore now to Gurgaon, Rohin, you've done a domestic trip. Now, even if you came by train, it was still a domestic trip. Yeah. India does 2.1 billion domestic trips. This was in 2018, 2019. Yeah. And assuming 99% of the trips are not in the luxury segment. So imagine my write off is 99%. In the foreign traffic, my write off was only 90%. It's still 23 million. So you were building for foreign travel 1 million, you're building for domestic travel 23 million. So bigger market. So the answer came Then we did a survey again. We went back to consumer and said, if you had a choice to stay, you would stay in Jaipur, Rajasthan, Kochi, or Goa. And the answer was 99% was Goa. So we said, okay, let's build in Goa. That's where Indians want to travel to. Also,
Why do you believe that's so?
because I think Goa is an absolutely amazing place. It is the only place. It's actually the design capital. It has the potential to be the design capital of the world. It's free spirited. The Portuguese left a great influence. The Saraswat Brahmins, the Portuguese, the Catholics, all coming together made it a beautiful potpourri of culture, of cuisine, of architecture, of design. It's great beaches, everything. So I think the whole vibe around Goa has been amazing, and I still believe that Goa can be bigger than Bali, except that we kind of ruined it. We ruined it with 90-pound charter flights from UK coming in every week, everybody getting drunk, sloshed, drink, eat food, go back, and the beaches are overcrowded and the shacks overcrowded. So we thought there was a phenomenal opportunity to transform Goa in a very significant way, and that's why really Goa. So one factor was this, and also because I was at Oberoi, I had a phenomenal ringside view of what was happening. Let me give you the example of a hotel. I'll give you examples of two hotels. The Oberoi Uday Villas, which I think is an absolutely amazing hotel in Udaipur, when it opened, I think in 2004, had 8% Indian occupancy, 92% foreign occupancy. By the time I would quit in 2018, it was 52% Indian and 48% foreign. Why is this significant? Because Oberoi Uday Villas is an expensive hotel at an average room rate of 30,000. So Indians were paying those kind of rates. So it was all coming of an age. The Oberoi Wildflower Hall ran record losses for 10 years. And suddenly, before I would even become president in 2013, the hotel had made its first profit after 10 years of losses. And by the time I would quit in 2018, so to give you an example, and the only reason it happened was because Indians started traveling. A fact which today you can corroborate by the success of Indigo Airlines or by Vistara or the number of airlines and the fact that every flight, no matter when you take, is full. So
Sure.
domestic travel is a very, very big segment.
I get that. But I also want to kind of go back to what I asked you about, like, when you decided to leave Oberoi. One of the things I've observed and, about you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have a very strong point of view on equity and ESOPs and wealth creation, especially in the hospitality and services sector. You said earlier that, like, you wanted to be an entrepreneur for the longest time, but you were just a middle class person. But you also said that your job with Oberoi was prestigious, it was well paying, etc., and stuff like that. Where I'm leading with this is, I've noticed you talk about people who've left the hospitality industry to start up their own businesses. I've noticed you talking about Easy Diner, which you're a co-founder of, and wealth creation there via ESOPs. So it seems to me that you're making the point that it's very important that yes, the hospitality industry is good, but it's kept a lot of very ambitious and talented people constrained within that system for a long time. It's time to let them break free, start their own businesses, create their own wealth, perhaps raise venture capital, give ESOPs. Is that something which is very important for you?
So, you see, I believe there are two kinds of capital in the world: legacy capital and intellectual capital. And I think Mr. Narayana Murthy, kind of made the point many years back, which would impress me, that intellectual capital is bigger than legacy capital. Hospitality needs investments. Yeah. So, there are phenomenal people. But think about it, Rohin. When you think of a restaurant in Bangalore, which five-star hotel chef comes to your mind?
None.
That's that's the answer. So if I was to say which standalone chefs come to your mind, you'll give me five. Correct? Why? Why is that? They're phenomenally talented people. They have been shackled into this thing of having a job and everything, and kind of giving up on their dreams. So I think one of the things that I did when I walked out was, and that's why whenever I get the opportunity to speak to younger people, I talk to them about it, that hospitality is a lot of commitment. Even today at Easy Diner, when we hire, you would always get a preference if you worked in a hotel, because I always
It's
believe
because
whether
of
you
the
have,
work ethic.
because of the work ethic, because whether you're talented or you're anything. If you are hardworking, you can outwork anyone else. I tell people who work with me that you may be smarter than me, but I'll outwork you. I can just outwork you in a very significant way. So I think that's a very important thing. And suddenly all these great people are dying in their dreams, doing the same job every single day. And the worst part is not even one chain has a good equity ownership plan for people who have given their lives completely. 18 hours a day is a normal thing in hotels. 16 to 18 hours is normal hours in
And for
hotels,
decades.
and for decades. And you've kind of not shared anything. So when I did Easy Diner, I said everybody owns stock. And I can tell you, Rohin, that everybody made fun of it. The biggest joke in Easy Diner was stock options for the longest period of time. Yeah, but means I kind of kept the faith. The joke got over when we did the first buyout on ESOP options, because that's the time my human resources department had to slot 15-minute interviews because they said, how do I have less stock than this guy? And for the first time they even noticed it. So I think there is an obligatory responsibility to give stock to our people. Means I'll just give you an example. At the Postcard Hotel, lots of people queuing up now to invest, like every day. Yeah, and our thing is, the first thing we did before people would come in, we have diluted more, and today 9% of the entire Postcard Hotel company is owned by employees. Similarly, Easy Diner, after now 3 rounds of funding, still I think around 7% or 6.5% is owned by employees. So one of the things is, in both the companies, I have three co-founders. So that it should never go to my head that I'm the greatest thing that's happened. So I think very important, and I had to lead by example. The postcard announcement is actually the first public announcement that 9% or 8.5% of postcard hotels is owned by employees, is first time on this podcast. I've never said it before. I've declared on Easy Diner. I've never said postcard, because I just got an approval last week to to increase the ESOP pool there. But that's the whole idea. Means if I am able to create, and I've always said, at the Postcard Hotel, we'll create India's most valuable hotel company.
So, three trends are coming together to enable this, the way I see it. First is, like you rightly said, the hotel or the hospitality industry has long had very talented people, but they were kind of embedded within those structures. So, though many of those people, starting with, for instance, chefs, to now hoteliers, like founders like yourself, are starting to come out. So you have the rise of intellectual brands. Second is, I think you have more risk capital available. I mean, everyone knows that, like, restaurants slash hospitality is a very risky business. You cannot take it, like you said, like, you run a hotel, pandemic, and then boom, everything is gone, right? And of course, these two coming together, the rise of, like you said, like independent intellectuals or ambitious entrepreneurs, and risk capital means now they can build businesses on their own, and they can enable wealth creation for their employees. You would think that this is something very obvious for the large hotel chains as well, right? Like, I mean, I cannot think of any other industry which says that, hey, I mean, you use the example of Infosys. Infosys has had wealth creation for its employees for the longest time. How can you imagine working 16 to 18 hours for an organization for 10, 20, 30 years, but not having some kind of like a sharing of its wealth? So I think this is one of the most important trends that I personally observe, in what you're doing and in what many other founders are doing
But
as well.
again, coming back to this, there are long-term repercussions. So today, what's happening? So if you really go, means I can tell you, really, I love stock markets too. I've been short on most hotel stocks. I've made a lot of money being short on them, and I'll tell you why. Think about it. Why did Indian hospitality become Indian hospitality? We say Atiti Devo Bhava. Yeah, we kind of keep on repeating that phrase all the time, that guest is God. So how come guests became God? How come great talent came into hospitality? Some of the best guys have worked at good hotels and whatever. Let me give you a very worrying trend. So what's happened is you've kind of bled the system dry. Yeah. So young people are asking the same questions that you are asking, Rohin. So when I appeared for my hotel management exam, that year I think there would have been 25, 30,000 people who would have applied, and there were 400 or 500 seats. This year, there are 10,000 seats and only 7,000 applied. So you did not have to give an exam. You could just walk in, and there were still 3,000 seats empty. Let me give you another interesting number. when out of that 400, 500 of us who passed out, at least 50% went to hotels, 50% did other things in life. Yeah, even at that time. Today, that ratio has dropped from 50% to 5%. So the cumulative effect is you are 1000% short on talent in hospitality. In the next 3 years, your quality of service will keep on going down. The bull run that we've seen in hotel prices over the last 2 years, now our hotels are priced more than Europe. And every time I travel to Europe, the quality of service is better than most hotels in India. It's a very, very dangerous long term trend. Hotels won't realize it, but I believe it's a very, very worrying trend. So, until unless you're able to take care of your HR capital and the postcard, because it's at transformative level, we also, although it's a great platform and ethical integrity platform to have that we are really with our employees, but it's also a phenomenally HR attraction magnet that, listen, if I'm going to work so hard and I'm so good and I still love this business so much because it's a lot of passion in the business too, I'm only going to go and work for the postcard hotel because you know what? I'll be taken care of.
So it's also a shift from what you're saying in the way traditional hospitality sector worked from the inside, which was like, here's the job, here are your clothes, suck it up, and like, you got to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't complain, I'll just replace you with someone else.
Mm.
Two, what you're now saying is that a lot of startup like, hey, these people are key to who I want to be, or the
Yeah.
business that I want to be, and
Yeah.
therefore I need to do a job of keeping them motivated,
Exactly.
retained,
Exactly.
etc. And
Exactly. So, like, I had a great conversation with my friend, and he runs, I think, KFC in the US and the entire markets. And he said, and he's kind of traveled every 3 years. And I asked him, I said, Tarun, so kids, where do they want to settle? He said, they're global citizens couple. They don't believe, like you and me, that we only need to be in India because of nationalistic pride. These guys have stayed in 10 countries. So, for them, the countries need to do things to appeal to them. Imagine, huh? Means that's the way I think hospitality is also. Now, for example, would I tell my daughter to come and work in a hotel in India? And she's studying hospitality at EHL, one of the best colleges in the world. And the answer to that is in the current context, no, until unless we change the context. And one way to change the context was that keep on lamenting that we need to change the context. The second way was do it and show the world, guys, we've done this. So, and we are going to keep on doing this again and again and again. And I got a great call, Rohan, from an executive search person. He says, your easy diner photograph when I did that ESOP thing on LinkedIn, incidentally, that post got 1 million views. Okay. Was
this is you holding up a huge check
yeah, the
of
huge
the.
check. Yeah, exactly. Got 1 million views, and I don't post that frequently too. And was a hiring masterclass. The number of LinkedIn requests in 3 days, and I generally always kind of I'm proper, so I generally don't like to have more than 100 200 requests waiting, but I had 22,000 LinkedIn requests, and I kind of filter my requests through that. Don't say yes to everything coming in. I had 22,000 requests in 3 days after that post coming through. Means the talent upsurge was huge, and we haven't even announced the postcard yet. So yeah, means you can see that that's the whole idea is to make it more inclusive.
Your dad was a doctor. How did you end up in the hospitality sector? And more importantly, why is it that you said that you wanted to be an entrepreneur since 2007? What were the steps that ended up with you entering the hospitality sector and then wanting to be an entrepreneur?
It's a great answer. It's a great question, and I'll answer it. So I gave every single medical entrance exam, Rohin. I cracked nothing. I thought my rank in AIMS was 1,95,000. I think only 1,95,000 people only sat for the exam. Okay, so I never cracked any medical exam. And now we've signed up a hotel with a gentleman who owns a 1,000 bed hospital with a medical college. And I told him the same. I said, I always wanted to be a doctor. He says, never too late. Yeah. So, but just to give an example, so I came into hotels accidentally. I always at home also there was a lot of love for food. And there was always discussion on the table about food. My father was a doctor, but he used to cook every day. He used to love cooking. The first time I would meet Chef Sanjeev Kapoor, I'd tell him that my father was a big fan. And he says, really? So it was all about food at home. So I thought that, I just gave the exam as a fluke and I got through. And I remember because I gave it as a fluke, my first choice was Srinagar. They asked you which part of national, they had 16 colleges. Where do you want to go? First for Srinagar, because it's cold. It's hot in Delhi when you give the entrance exam in May, and the second was Bangalore because great weather, and the third was Delhi. So in my interview, they said, "Mr. Chopra, why do you want to go to Srinagar?" I said, because it's nice, it's great weather. He's saying, we'd like to inform you that the college has been closed due to terror activities. So we're really disappointed that you cannot go to Srinagar, but we'll send you to Bangalore. So I went for hotel management to Bangalore for my first year, actually.
And where did the seed for entrepreneurship come from?
Always wanted it. Always wanted it. Always wanted to create something on my own. It was all
And
just there. It always was there.
was that like, I mean, during your long career at Oberoi, you left Oberoi Group twice, I think. Once when you
Once,
went,
no, just
oh,
once.
that was
Just
Hyatt, and
Hyatt,
then
Taj, and then
Taj,
back
and
to
then you
Oberoi.
came back.
Yeah.
Uh, hmm. Was there something about, like, I mean, would you want to tell us about going back to, because not many organizations and employers are comfortable, or employees are comfortable going back to where they left. But it
So,
also
so
says a lot about,
So Oberoi has a great culture and a lot of our people. So the first preference, even when I was president, I would give to people who had quit Oberoi and would wanted to come back because they understand the DNA, the culture. I think a lot of amazing work has been done by the Oberoi School, which is the management school, very coveted, very tough to get in. 10,000 people apply, 20 get in. Very tough. Yeah, I mean, I was a alumni of that school. So if we know your badge, and so if even if I today meet you and you say that, I also went to OCLD, which is the school, and I was a batch of 2003, I would definitely have an affinity towards you. So there's a lot of, so you're always welcome back. I was actually called back. We were doing the Trident in Gurgaon, which finally would become the most successful hotel ever in India, like ever. It kind of paid back its entire investment in 2 years, 5 months. And that would actually leapfrog my career in a very significant way. But I was called back from Taj to say, why did you leave? I was a topper and I'd left. And the reason to leave Oberoi was, again, they had a batch system. So, your restless point comes in. I was like, why should I conform to this? I didn't join the government. Why should a person of a senior batch take me over? Why isn't this on the basis of competency? So that's why I left, really. And India was opening up. Grand Hyatt was opening the first hotel in India. So that was there. Then my bosses from Oberoi quit and went to the Taj because Taj was undergoing a transformation. And Ajit Kerkar had just been taken out by Mr. Tata, and Mr. Krishna Kumar had come in. He was appointing a full team. So my ex-team from Oberoi, my guys who trained me at the management school, moved to Taj, and they picked me up from the Hyatt to go to the Taj. And then I got a call back from Mr. Oberoi himself. He said, come back. So I came back.
is that one of your philosophies at Postcard also? You're still young, so I'm assuming that chain still hasn't, like, started to play, which is people leaving and then wanting to come back. But is that something that,
It's
you,
already happened. It's happened
oh,
in three, four cases. And again, most of them are welcome. Most of them are welcome back because you see, I believe people should be given the freedom to choose and decide what they want to do. So definitely once you can come back. I'm not sure about the second time. Yeah, but once, yeah,
how do you find your
everybody.
first 10 employees?
So again, the day I quit, I was sitting with Mr. Oberoi when the note went out into the company that he's quit, and on my iPad the emails started coming in because you see when you run a hotel company, it's a very people business, and people would report into me. Yeah, so for them, I was the only face really from that perspective. So means I got hundreds and hundreds of emails on the official email address saying, "Just want to come and work with you." I'm a very tough guy to work because I'm always very driven, but I somehow think I'm very people focused and very fair too. I think that. I don't know if they think so, but there were so many emails that Mr. Oberoi and I had a very clear conversation. So we said people will come. Means there was absolutely no way. So there was that we could have heartburn that people are coming and whatever, or we could have a process. So the process we set out that time with Mr. Oberoi was that anybody who wants to come needs to declare they're coming. Yeah. And two, they need to give a full notice period because they already have a job. It's difficult to replace. It's season. So people need to give that notice period. And Mr. Oberoi has the power to increase that notice period in case he feels that that specific
Someone
hotel
is
will
more
suffer.
critical.
And he did. He did it for two of my key direct reports. He increased that to 6 months or something, but that was okay. So we had a very nice way to do it. Even today, they apply all the time, and they can come in. So that's what. So I also thought that so talent attraction has never been the challenge at the
Yeah, that
Postcard
was my
Hotel.
next question. What is your talent funnel at Postcard?
So we get a lot of inbound interest, and we're very particular about how we hire. Um, in some of the hotels, we need lower skill levels. So that's the challenge because we don't know the lower skill level. But if I wanted to open up another three hotel companies with senior management, I think I can even do that. I don't want to, but yeah, I mean, if we had to do it, it was easy.
How do you spot the really ambitious and employees with potential? What questions do you ask to uncover that?
I so there's a movie called The Recruit in which Al Pacino says a very nice line. He says, "I'm a scary judge of talent." Yeah, and I
It's
think
Colin Farrell, if I'm not
yeah, I think
mistaken,
so.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says it to him, and Al Pacino is the guy who's training all of them. Yeah, and I think I will observe people even serving coffee. I will observe everything if I'm in a restaurant without, I don't even have to put myself on to observe. I will observe everything, smile, posture. It's like I'm screening all the time. So we would know people through and through. I mean, I can identify somebody who's got great talent from a long term perspective very fast. And I hardly ask any
Say
questions.
I blindfolded you so you couldn't see their demeanor and posture, etc., and you could only speak with them. What questions might you ask?
So, questions would change all the time. I don't have a list of questions that I ask, but I would evaluate you for how passionate you are, even if I'm blindfolded. And I'll ask you a question saying, why are you so interested in hospitality? Because only passion can keep you alive. Yeah. So how passionate you are. I would ask you a question on how committed you are. And I would ask questions to judge your commitment levels. If you've changed too many jobs, then we will definitely not hire you because we believe that doesn't show a long-term focus in building a career, or basically that means you're just basically jumping for the loops. That's one of the big problems I've seen in startups actually, because I run Easy Diner too, which is a totally dynamic tech startup, and the only thing is everybody's changing a job. So even at Easy Diner, where talent is slightly more difficult than Postcard, no longer now because it's profitable and is doing well. But again, we've always been very particular about looking at your document very seriously. We look at it very, very seriously, saying 10 jobs you've changed in 10 years means who knows you work well or you don't work well. So it's a very strict criteria there. But I'd always prioritize commitment over everything because I believe people who are committed can actually do anything they like. And the problem in the world is that people are not committed.
Hmm.
So
I'm connecting it back to what you said earlier about hard work. You said, I mean, people equally smart, right? The one who will do hard work will outwork the other. You're talking about commitment, you're talking about passion. Where, what's your view on, and I'm connecting it back to what you said just now, which is the problem is that there aren't enough. What's happening, and what can we do uh, to bring back, I think, a certain amount of passion and joy and commitment towards work?
I can give you an example. I was having a call with the sales team at Easy Dino. Yeah, everybody in the sales team, and they're in 51 cities. And I was talking to them, and I could feel they were under pressure because I was like really applying a lot of pressure. Then I thought it was just getting to them because I just got some feedback, and I kind of got all of them on a Zoom call, and I said, the reason to come to work is joy. If you love coming to work, the passion will come out in your voice. I said, so everything that we are telling you to do, that do this, we need to do this to stay ahead of the game, is all about developing yourself from a growth mindset. That, how do I grow? And, I'll give you a real story. So once I really asked Yuvraj Singh, the cricketer, because he's an investor in Easy Diner, I said, tell me, are Sachin Tendulkar and Rahul Dravid really that great? Because Yuvraj Singh was a legend himself too. He said, yes, they are. And I said, why? He says, because their only competition is themselves. They don't compete with anybody. He's saying, so let's say if Sachin's hit 100, he's saying at 9 a.m. in the nets, all of us will be chilling because we're winning. Sachin's hit 100. Sachin Tendulkar will be there and he'll be saying, UV, you remember that stroke I played at 41? That was wrong. Just tell the bowler, keep on bowling it to me till he perfects his art. He's saying, so both Rahul and Sachin had one very strong ethic, which was hard work and commitment. Yeah, and they led by that. So he's saying, so everybody growing up in the team would say, wow, these guys are world class legends because the only competition was with themselves. And the second part was that they loved what they did. So the joy. So I always tell my people, just be joyous about it. And sometimes people will start giving up. And I think that's very important. And then also, Rohin, it comes from values that you have as an organization. So imagine I'm out of Oberoi. I haven't raised too much capital at Postcard. And 2 years later, COVID happens. And I'm at Easy Diner. Our funding round, which had to happen with Goldman Sachs, a $25 million round, just failed. And they had to meet an IC. It had to come back in an IC in March. And that March never happened because COVID happened. And we had to cut salaries in a very, very big way. But we had one rule at Postcard and Easy Diner. We said, okay, we guys are very small. We'll die. Most likely we will because we don't know when this is going to get over. But you know what? We will cut salaries significantly, and we really did very significant cuts, but we won't lay off anybody. You know, so you look at history. They said Napoleon became the greatest general because he never left the wounded on the battlefield. So we kind of played that out, and we said, no matter what happens, as long as there's food in everybody's house, it's okay. You don't have time for disposable incomes to play and buy. So we did not lay off even one single individual across Easy Diner and Postcard, not even one. Postcard had 50% salary cuts, Easy Done had 75% salary cuts. And then we would bring it back. And every time we brought it back with full communication. And every time that communication had to happen, although Easy Diner as a CEO, across the companies, I would do the communication to employees, clear, crisp, straight out. And that's, I think, it's very simple. I think the rules of building a company, building a world class organization are very, very simple.
What is it that you feel you add most value as CEO to Postcard Hotels?
Very strong team already. They have a very strong team. They have a huge difference of opinion on with me on everything nearly. I think both the companies are very, very strong teams, really. So I think in Postcard specifically, I think it's more about vision articulation. It's more about saying why are we restricting, but it's also they have a direct veto on it, on pretty much everything, really. So it's basically vision articulation and basically development and basically opening their eyes to how the world needs to see it. Why doesn't Sundarbans have a great hotel? Now, my CFO is a co-founder too. It's saying it's never going to make money, Kapil. Okay, and I'm saying, how do we know if we don't build it? So it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the largest mangroves between India and Bangladesh. It doesn't have a great hotel.
What's the difference between building merely an organization versus an institution, in your belief?
So in my belief, no matter how much people hate them, whether it's Google or Meta or Apple, are institutions. These are beyond companies,
No, but
correct?
that's today. So when
Yeah,
starting out, what advice would
but
you give someone in
long
terms
term.
of building an institution?
Just think long term. Just think long term.
Is that easy given that a lot of the startups are funded by venture capitals who typically have like a 3, 5, max 7 year
So
return cycle? Is
actually,
it easy?
actually, they don't, Rohin. I think, most of them have 7, 10, 12 years, and most of them are now converting it into alternative investment funds and putting it on. So I don't think so. But I think it's very important for you to onboard like minded investors. So when we raise money for Easy Diners after 35 capitalists said no to us because, there were absurd things like, I don't think people will eat out. I said, oh, really? So everybody would sit in their bed. Okay, great. So even after that, when we raised from people we believed would understand a vision of building a long term business. You always have to think long term. So that choice is with the founder. That is the journey you are on. A lot of people go wrong because they either start competing in wrong boxes or they start, they get or investors kind of put in a vision.
Yeah, I mean, earlier on you said about like, founder-led chains like Aman and Six Senses and One and Only, they lost control.
Yeah.
What do you think happened? Like,
Leverage. They over leveraged. There's only one common factor. All of them are over leveraged. So they lost control of the great brands they built. So at the Postcard Hotel, that is where the operating company stayed separate and the real estate company stayed separate. So the operating company never loses control. It's kind of I've de-risked the operating company from ever losing control because I've learned what happened in the future.
sorry, could you tell us more what that means?
So very simple, Rohin. So I remember when I was coming out of Oberoi, hotels are if I may say so, a very cool, very much in the media attention job. So the news made it to ET page one that he quits to become a full time entrepreneur. So the first call I got was from a very significant private equity firm in this country. They said, "Hey, let's build hotels. We'll write in $100 million seed check." I'm not exaggerating. Okay, $100 million seed. This is 2018. Never happened. Um, but we own 80% and you own 20%. And that's huge again. Yeah, means overnight I owned 0%. I own 20% of a 100 million seed. I'm the CEO, and my salary is higher than what it was benchmarked to. So your lifestyle's taken care of. The whole idea was I told them, and this company owns a QSR chain too. And I told them, I said, it's not about opening outlets on a QSR chain. These are hotels with a soul. If I lose the soul and if I start onboarding every single asset, means even today, Rohin, as I speak to you, my heart bleeds sometimes. But 95% or 19 out of 20 hotels that we look at, and we get a lead a day, one lead a day. One Somebody wakes up in India and says, I want to do a postcard hotel. I just want to work with you. 19 will be said no to, and those 19 could be other brands. Yeah, but postcard can't take it. So it takes a lot. So you need to have a very clear mindset that you're building for the long term, and you will hear these comparisons. So I get venture capitalists just coming in for a cup of coffee and talking and talking and saying, but couple, we have this 10-year vision. But by the eighth question, the 10-year vision is coming down. Okay, and I'm saying, no, you really don't. You won't get this business. So why don't you just stay, enjoy the hotel, because all of them use it. Okay, so why don't you stay, enjoy the hotel? But this is a different game. It's being built in front of you, it's being built in public, and I'm building the world's number one luxury hospitality company, and I'm building it at a pace that it's never happened. Think about it. Every 3 months for the next 7 years, a new postcard hotel will open up. So that's the making of a cult brand. Rohan stayed at the postcard on
So
the
what's
Arabian
your
Sea.
yeah? So what's your target? Like, how many hotels are you hoping to make?
as many as many as
But
I
like
can.
as of now, like what's your
As many as I can. So I think we can open one a month, still keep our
your goal
DNA
was
intact.
50, I think, when you started
We
out, right?
started, but we are pretty much, COVID delayed it a bit. But if you really add 9 plus 23, you're already sitting at 32, and we would get to 50 pretty fast now, actually. Yeah, and but they're all being built. They're all unique. They're all special. They're the biggest rooms in the world. Our minimum room size is 800 square feet. So when you're building a world class institution, you have to be like Steve Jobs says, no, either it is insanely great or total shit. Postcard operates on that. Either it's great or total shit. There is no role for mediocrity. I can't create a P hotel brand, at least not as of today. That, okay, this hotel can't be postcard, let's call it P or let's call it T. I can't do that.
How many people report to you at Postcard?
Really, I think four or five maybe, five, and then they've kind of run the whole thing.
And what does your typical work week or work day look like?
So it's brutally prioritized. I brutally prioritize it between Easy Diner and Postcard. So both the investors on both sides also need to have the maturity that he will prioritize it in a significant way. So it's brutally prioritized. It could move between both. But also, a lot of people don't understand that actually it's really both the businesses. And if you really thought about it, that even in the restaurant business, when the logout campaign happened, Easy Diner never really got locked out that severely like everybody. Actually, the statements from the restaurant owners were, we love Easy Diner. Because you see, the point is, I always say for Easy Diner, we are actually a hotel and restaurant company enabled by technology. The others are technology companies in that sector. So we are a part of that ecosystem. So that ecosystem kind of beautifully marries with each other. So last week, I was speaking to the global team of Hilton on what is the India opportunity, because I'm not away from them, but they are on Easy Diner too, and they compete with us in some markets too. But it's all together really, which kind of helps. I think both the businesses. At least I'd like to believe that. But honestly, in a way, it's on a daily basis. It just depends. So, for example, for today, I know that I will definitely have a meeting. Today's more Easy Diner. Tomorrow's more postcard. But today at 4 o'clock, there's a very important postcard call too. So it's brutally prioritized. I kind of protect my time like anything. And another rule that I have because of the companies I run is, if you were to ask me for an appointment 2 weeks out, I would generally never give it. I would hesitate a lot because I don't like to block my calendar. But if you want to see me tomorrow, it's easier to see me tomorrow because I generally keep my days free.
How do you balance that out? Like, not booking appointments 2 weeks and farther out, but at the same time, also having a hectic calendar. So, what when you start a week, typically, what percentage of your calendar is already filled in?
So let's say this week, maybe 10%, 90% is still free. So I'd like to keep it that way. So
So
I
then,
do very
and how
less.
do you then? Is it every morning that you're trying to figure out, like, what you're going to
No,
spend
no,
that day
it's
on?
it's basically I would know on the weekend on how I would spend the week. I would know on the weekend, but because of the ever changing environment, I'm able to prioritize in a very significant way. Think about it, Rohin. When we sign a hotel, like for example, I spoke about Tirupati. Tirupati, by the time it gets completed, will be a 350 crore rupee hotel. Okay, and we sign a 25-year contract. That's huge commitment for anybody. So I need to keep that level of time to interact, and every single postcard hotel, every single piece of design I will go through. So finally, when my design teams, my co-founder, head of operations have seen everything, they would come, and because they've worked with me so long, they would tell me, you're not going to like this, but we really need to show you. But there's absolutely no other way. So even before a room is finalized, I would know. But the system operates so beautifully that they would tell me that you're not going to like the heights. You're not going to like. So I always say luxury is about three things: height, light, and space. You give height, give light, and you give space, and that's intangible, the biggest part of luxury. And from that perspective, means my teams would always be evaluating.
Kapil, do you use mental models often at work? And if so, what are some of your favorite mental models when you're making big decisions?
So really, not really a mental model, but I have a very clear basis on taking a call. Means when I'm doing hotels specifically, I'm always saying that hotels are intergenerational products. So your decisions need to be very long term. You cannot take short term decisions. Also, the fact that when I look at hotels and I'm saying that look at the three founders who are more smarter, more visionary than I would ever be, and they lost control of their companies is maybe sometimes due to wrong site selection. So sometimes we see great hotels, okay, but we believe that location will never attract people. So we would not really kind of go and build that a hotel
It
in
must be
that
hard,
location.
right? Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
because a lot of what you're saying about what you want to do or founders in this space want to do is to, in some senses, buck the norm and say, this is not possible because nobody's doing it, but I will do it. I will show others that what can be done. But the other side of that coin is that sometimes those are the wrong calls. And sometimes, if you leverage, those wrong calls can essentially cost you the entire business. Where is the line, or what are the checks and balances that you think deserve to be there so that you can balance ambition but also risk?
Great question. So we see sites all the time. Rohin, we see opportunity all the time. I'm looking at land parcels and I'm saying, hey, I should be buying this because this will take the profits 4x. Because why are we even doing this hotel with somebody else? And you see it all the time. It's just basically very, very strict discipline. And you need to build a culture of inclusivity with your co-founders to have them veto your thing. I'll give you an example. We were saying no to so many hotels at one point, like great assets, great locations, and
But so
some
just to understand, when you say no to hotels, you mean somebody who's
somebody's
potentially
kind
a
of built a
site
great
owner.
structure, somebody who's maybe built a structure, somebody's got a great site, and we're saying no, we can't do this. And so at one point, I did on my own, working the nights, created a 25 slide deck on what should the next brand of postcard be. And I called my three co-founders and one or two more people, and I said, guys, I'm going to present something to you, and I want you to vote on it. Generally, they would never agree on anything themselves because they would have a very strong opinion. And all of them outvoted me. I think there were four of them, and they said 4-0 that no, we can't do a second brand. That means we will drop our quality standards to accommodate everything. So we should
I didn't
still.
understand. What was your presentation about?
My presentation was about creating a second brand. Like every hotel company has a second brand,
Oh,
correct?
okay, okay,
Oberoi
okay.
has Trident,
Got it.
Marriott has multiple brands. So if something doesn't come into that super luxury game, you bring it a notch lower and you create a different brand. And they said no, that would every product would be a compromise. So sometimes you need great people to keep checks on you, And because I was saying, guys, do you even understand that? I know we've got 3,000 crores of assets signed, but we said no to 10,000 crores of assets, maybe even more. And think about it. If it was a venture fueled business, it would say, okay, 10,000 crores is 13,000 crores is their book. Let's say zero point 0.4 of the book should be their valuation. Wow, rocketing valuation, fastest unicorn, all those things would happen. And then we said, no, 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 we need to stay away from this because this is not in the long term interest of the business. And now, more so, Rohin, after 6 years, when we sit on a meeting as the Postcard Hotel and the love that we get, or even when we are pitching to the same owner, and there are three more brands, and the way that we get selected out of that is absolutely
Is this
amazing.
very competitive? I mean, like you said, there are three other brands competing for this. Is it a very, it's something which is not talked about, written about, but I'm sure you're seeing a lot of it. But
So generally, people who want to work with us would ideally come and only work with us, but they would always use other brand quotations to try and negotiate a bit more. But what we saw was that, think about it, Rohan, before 2018, neither Taj nor ITC had a small hotel brand. None of them had it, and suddenly both of them launched brands. Yeah, so basically was also to say that this space may have gone because nobody thought that small hotels could make money till we kind of did it and said, hey guys, it can, and it can get even higher consumer love than normal hotels would. So I think we kind of opened up a whole segment, a whole market and everything, except that they did not know that our idea was never small hotels. Our idea was great hotels and great service. And it was disruption in very three specific areas. One was what I call product disruption. That means we look at architecturally amazing buildings relevant to the region. The second disruption was height, light, and space. If it doesn't meet this criteria of height, light, and space, can't be a postcard hotel. Yeah. The third specific disruption was that the minimum room size for a postcard hotel has to be 800 square feet. While
what is it usually in the
so
luxury or boutique space?
300 to 400 for top luxury hotels in this country, for top luxury branded hotels in this country
So why
across
are you
brands.
doubling that? I mean, if I were to kind of play
So
devil's advocate, why would you sell two rooms or offer two rooms for the, I mean, I'm not saying for the
because
price of one because you do
yeah,
offer it at a higher price point, but why do this?
height, light, and space. Jeff Bezos' main answer. What will not change? People will not say they need lower space, lesser space. Think about it. We cater to the richest of the rich people across the world to be at the postcard hotel, yeah, because only they can afford it. And their bedrooms are bigger than hotel rooms. So whenever they go on a holiday, they're actually slumming it out. Postcard Hotel is the only brand which thought, let's make it bigger. So this is product disruption, yeah. And then thinking deeper into the product disruption. So for example, except for the postcard in Gir, which opened much earlier, all the wildlife, and we're opening 5 new wildlife resorts: Ranthambore, Chitwan, Kana, Pench, Javai. And in all these wildlife reserves, you will actually have two toilets or two washrooms. Why? Because what time do you go for a safari? At 5 a.m. On a double occupancy room, who goes to the bathroom first? And if you have two, isn't this great? That both of you can go get ready because the gates of the park close at 5:15 or something. So you really need to be in a car by 5 a.m. And it's 0 degrees outside. It's cold. So we're kind of thinking it very differently. So product. Yeah. Then comes the service part, which is absolutely amazing, which is check in when you want, check out when you want, which is breakfast is when you wake up, whether you wake up at 4 p.m. or something, because the cost of an egg at 8 a.m. is the same, and it's the same at 4 p.m. too. So why do hotels have these restrictions?
Why do they? Is there something to do with
Easy means, I'll give you an example. In Europe, I just booked a hotel room for my daughter at a very top luxury hotel brand. Check-in time is 10 a.m. Sorry, check-in time is 4 p.m. and checkout time is 10 a.m. So the 6 hours is for what? Earlier on when I started doing hotels, it
yeah,
used
and
to be
4
12,
hours
12.
is pretty
Yeah,
much given,
normal.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
normally 2 p.m. is
Yeah.
check-in
Never
and
used to
10
be.
a.m. is,
Rohin,
yeah.
earlier on it used to be 12 and 12. Check-in time and check-out
That's
time is
true, that's
12.
true.
And
And
then they
it's,
kept on
yeah.
changing it to suit themselves. So our point is, no, check-in time is whenever you want to check in and check-out time is whenever you want to check out. Because the hotel should accommodate or adapt according to yourself. Not that the guest is in school no longer. And that's why the amazing consumer love for postcard. And how did this come across? We looked at 10,000 guest comments across the best hotel companies in the world And the only filter in TripAdvisor we used was negative guest comments, where they got ranked poor or below average.
And what were some of them other than
Check in,
yeah?
check out, breakfast. Okay. And the third was alcohol prices. So we said, okay, alcohol prices, we're not going to fix that way. But whenever you come in into the hotel, you should be welcomed with unlimited alcoholic cocktails from the region. So whether you're in Goa, whether you get a dandeli, Feni dandeli, or you're in Bhutan, you get a red rice beer, or you're in Sri Lanka, you get a passion fruit and arak cocktail. And they should be unlimited because you are on a holiday. Why in India, if I order a glass of wine for lunch on a weekday, do people have a problem? When you're in Europe, don't we have it all the time? So our point was to change that entire narrative. That was service. The third was distribution. The third disruption was distribution. How do we distribute? We learned it from Easy Diner. What did we learn from Easy Diner? Easy Diner has 22 bank partners. If you eat out today and you eat out without Easy Diner, I guarantee you, you lose 40%. I guarantee you. Because Easy Diner has 22 bank partners from Axis Bank to IndusInd Bank to HSBC. Everybody is giving $1,000 off on the app instantly. So I always talk about the financial disruption that Easy Diner did to become a financial powerhouse. And we learned from the postcard there. So we said if 3% of India owns a credit card, and if that 3% drives 51% of all digital transactions, then that is the TG for the postcard hotel. Let's go direct to the airlines. So Singapore Airlines, for example, has only one hotel partner in India. Can you imagine? Only postcard. The first hotel partner that Vistara Airlines in India had was only postcard. Okay, so we went to the cards, we went to the airlines. So you kind of building in a direct connection to reach the consumer. And I think that's really the key. I always say this: Swiggy, Zomato, Amazon, Flipkart, Mintra. Combine all of these five together. And Rohin, you choose any other five e-commerce platforms and look at the amount of banking offers, list them down, and list the banking offers on Easy Diner out. Easy Diner will win over all these 10 guys. Why? Why do credit card companies love Easy Diner so much that they don't love all these guys? The reason is very simple. Banks are very selfish. Banks are not, they don't have favorites. Yeah. Banks like it because the average order value on Easy Diner is 3,700 rupees. That gives them a great check size. The only other average order value over 3,700 rupees is travel. But travel is nearly saturated. How much can you grow? 8%, 10%? Dining is an $18 billion business. There's
Also, the
nobody.
frequency is lesser for travel, right?
Yeah, I mean, and nowadays nearly okay, whatever. So eating out is a phenomenal business, and nobody owns that part of the business. So that's why they would come there. Same as with hotels. Hotels were not directly going to credit card companies and saying, you know what, you don't need to go anywhere because you are an Axis Bank Burgundy customer or you're an American Express Insurance customer. Here's a special offer directly for you. So I think that was a distribution disruption we did. So the brand has its ethos correct, but it's also very, very disruptive in the way it approaches the business.
Hmm. How do you're a young business and you're also making risky, unknown bets. How do you think about failure? Have there been any failures at Postcard, like small, big, large, that you look back and say that, like, that you learned from? Or how do you generally look at failures at Postcard?
So I think we raised very less capital. We just did one institutional round, and after that, we never raised too much. I think so that kind of constrained us a bit. I think so. So we've always built, but both the companies that I've built with a frugal mindset. Both the companies I've built with a profitability perspective. Both the companies we built, we know that glory will come to us in 10 years or whatever. So we're not chasing anything. We built from a long-term perspective that we advocate. So I think there are missed opportunities more than more than failures. Like I remember we said no to a beautiful hotel in Udaipur for postcard. Means just because we were like sitting, I don't know what were we thinking that time, and it was amazing. So we look back on this and said maybe that one could have been. And sometimes we will revisit a hotel, and because we are very but the good part is that we've kept such a high bar that anything that crosses the bar is very good. So I think more missed opportunities postcard because it's built in a way because it was built on the fact that three people before us had failed as a lesser bar on failure because it's built very very carefully. And it's a very big antithesis to this entire raising capital building. Because my point was, even if I would raise capital, means how much would I raise? 100 million? That's two hotels for me. Means how do I raise capital for a business
So
like
just
that?
to understand, in your business, you're saying even if someone were to raise a lot of capital, that capital is deployed to acquire land and to build hotels.
Of course, yes.
And instead, you're saying the way you're using the capital route is to not acquire land in most cases and partner.
But
Uh,
if I have to acquire land, now what's happening at Postcard is we will definitely do a real estate fund. But that fund is only in charge of assets. You see, so it has 10 assets, three of them doing well, seven of them not doing well, or all 10 of them doing well. But the operating company is always insulated because the operating company owns the brand. So we've always kept it separate. So right now there are multiple owners working with us, and our owner NPS is 9, which is the highest. Maybe again, we are very very close to our owners now. Most of our owners are doing a second, third hotel with us, which is great. But again, we've kind of kept it totally isolated, so we really don't have to worry on the operating company. That the operating company never gets into leverage. The operating company only goes for a 6 if it selects the wrong sites, signs revenue share lease contracts, and gets blown out.
hmm. So the business model that you're talking about, in many ways, would you agree that it's similar to the annuity businesses that get thrown up with, let's say, schools, hospitals, etc., where there is an operating company which has a significant real estate play, it's a services, and once you set it up, it continues to throw up cash flows forever, which is why large private equity funds and sovereign funds love these kind of businesses, because if your time frame is endless, it's 20 years, 30 years, then you ideally don't really care about multiples, you care about predictable and growing cash flows. So is that one of the theses also at in hospitality and in your this thing itself, that come work with us because you can see the future and it's like a 10, 20 year.
The only difference being that the returns can be exponential. The only difference being that the returns can be exponential. You could even end up making 30% a year for
Why would the returns be exponential unless, like, so where is the exponential growth coming from? Because your tariffs
occupancy
are,
and average room rates. Both can go up to any level. Your occupancy and average room rates can
you
go up to any
already
level.
operating at such a high level. Do you believe that
No,
it's
our
possible?
occupancy is not actually very high.
Oh, no, no. I
So
meant the price. You're operating at a price which is significant. Oh, the
Uh,
occupancy could.
price is significant from an India perspective. From a global perspective, no. Really, from a global perspective, we are way below a global experience. From on a pricing perspective, and on occupancy, we are way way low. So I think where Postcard is, even the current profitability could go 4x from here, just doing nothing.
Earlier on, you talked about the foreign versus domestic mix. What does it look like for you?
So because COVID happened and a lot of inbound travel got impacted, so it's 90% domestic, 10% foreign with us. But I believe the foreign component will go grow in a significant way.
When you started, what did you assume would be the mix in 2007,
We kind
18?
of assumed it that way only because we see Goa was not on any itinerary. Goa had no luxury operators sending guests to Goa because they said don't go. Yeah, so we actually were the first guys who put Goa on the luxury itinerary. Actually, I remember there was a big LVMH board thing coming to us, I think, in February just before COVID happened, with private jet movement scheduled, but only supposed to stay at the Postcard. So before that, Goa was not even on the luxury itinerary of global travelers. Why would you? Means if you're in Europe, you'd go to a beachside in Europe. But we kind of made sure that Goa is not North or South Goa, but 332 collection of villages. So come for the history, the architecture, the heritage, and the culinary diversity of Goa. You see, I think that was very important. One of the most important points that I think I haven't spoken about is food. Food is a very integral part of the Postcard Hotel. So I think that's a very key part because five-star hotel chefs ruin food because they're very regimented and factory led in their production basis because that's how they're trained. If they come out, and most of them are so creative, we kind of work with local housewives in every single hotel to be refining cuisines. So, for example, if I was to tell you to go to Gujarat to eat, you would say, I'd go and eat the Gujarati thali because that's what comes. But when you go to Gir, our hotel there, day one, you can have the Gujarati food, which is great vegetarian food. Second day, you can have the food of Junagadh because the Nawab of Junagadh was known for his cuisine. So it's all decadent, high in oil, but amazing meats and everything. Third day, you could have the Parsi thali because the Parsis actually came to India through Saurashtra. Fourth day, you could have seafood from Veraval, which is so good that Veraval seafood is not even sold in India. They export directly to Japan because they think that they will never get the value here. So we are able to get it. So I think the culinary diversity of India has also not been exposed in a significant way. And again, it's our responsibility to do that. So you would never get a croissant. I've also said this like 100 times in a hotel, because the croissant is not an Indian bread. But India has 128 indigenous varieties of breads, from the pui in Goa to the Mangalore bun. But we don't talk about it because we are not proud of it. So at the Postcard Hotel, one of the things is come to eat. I tell all my friends, I know you're going, I know the hotel's going to be great, but just come to eat.
How do you learn? You have to always keep learning in order to keep ahead, in order to see what's coming next. How do you learn?
So I read a lot, Rohin. I used to read a lot, actually. I must say that I read less than what I should, but I still read a lot.
Is that books
I
or
read books. I read books, and a lot of my life is influenced by books. Really, I thought the final call to quit Oberoi was Minimization Regret Theory by Jeff Bezos. The final call. I read it and I said, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." And so I read a whole lot, really. And I travel. Whenever I travel, I learn so much. Really, means I think the culinary diversity means I haven't seen India the way it is, because I was also very regimented. When you run a big company, you only go to places which have a revenue impact on your company, really. So I think I was with my blinders on, really. Now the blinders are off, so I can actually see India, learn. I also believe that people only learn two ways, really: by reading and by traveling. And why do they only learn these two ways? Because both these things actually take them out of the world they live in.
what is it that truly drives you?
I think to create something very iconic, very different, means, I'm not driven by money. Means if I was, then very difficult to leave a nice job and then quit and work without any salary or too much for anything. I'm not driven by money. But I think I'm driven by creating. I love creating. I love building. I love running. Means I know there were many proposals in the last, especially in the last few months, for Easy Diner, that, hey, can we kind of do it together or whatever. But the whole idea was, I love the process of building and working and creating, and I love challenges. So I think that drives me. I absolutely love what I do. I love coming to work, and that's what drives me. And I like very challenging things.
Do you find it hard to switch off?
I can switch off. Everybody thinks I don't switch off. I switch off for a very long period of time sometimes. And I can actually bring my energy down to zero and then pick it up again. And it's again about reading. There's a beautiful book by Harvard Business School on mental toughness. And in chapter 1 they talk about how Olympic athletes train. So you gotta move to that training level where you come down to zero and then you move to 100 if you have to move to 100 again. So I kind of train myself to operate like that. Yeah.
Is there anything that you've changed your mind about when it comes to managing and growing people? Something that you believed in originally but have changed your mind since?
Um, Good question. Really thinking hard now. No, not really. I've kind of kept the same people philosophy really going. So yeah, so my guys can reach out to me. I think I'm much more calmer than I was at Oberoi. I was much more.
Do you meditate?
No, I don't. But I think I'm much more calmer today as I was. But again, it comes from.
Why? Why are you more calmer? Because there you had an entire system and infrastructure working for you. Here you're in the middle of two startups, both of which are guaranteed to be more chaotic on any given day than. But why you calmer?
I think because the hiring has made sure that everybody's switched on. Legacy organizations have a lot of bandwidth on politics, and to kind of, so it's more frustrating. Means And I know that this is a call I took. I'm totally responsible for those calls, and I know that everybody is in the same mission. So I'm much more calmer as a person. And two, I think it's also the years, because at one point you thought the only way is to just drive and get your stuff done. Drive, 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 drive. And I think today you understand that everybody needs to be a part of that entire vision, and everybody is a co-owner with you. So it's just not you, huh? Means it's just not you, but it's everybody's owning. Means if you really wanted for co-founders to be really seriously respected in the organization, then they really need to have a lot of say in the business. So I think even in the organizations, higher levels of ownership in both companies, because we kept the bench very high.
What are you afraid that people around you, your colleagues, co founders, might not be telling you?
What am I afraid? No, I think we have a very open relationship. So they will tell me, and I'll tell you how they'll tell me if they have to tell me, saying, it's really going to get you upset, but we really need to tell you. So this is how it starts. And I know it's coming. I'm saying, okay. So it's a nice relationship I think I have with the entire teams and whatever. So we had this, we had a colleague who left us into a very senior position. She was in a senior position with us at Easy Dana, left us, and the family lost she lost a father, and the entire team was there. So I think the kind of value system that we've created is absolutely amazing. So even if you're an intern at Easy Diner for 2 weeks, we will take health insurance for you. So I think so it's kind of a very caring culture. I remember we had the Easy Diner Foodie Awards, our biggest celebration ever, and that tragedy had happened that time. So half the team wanted to go, and then they had to really prioritize. They said, "Okay, you go now for 3 hours, then I'll go, then we will go." So I think the way they kind of all come together, I think we've kind of created the right culture. And sometimes mistakes will still happen, but I think we've done that, and I still have to work on myself, Rohin, a lot. So I read in a Tim Ferriss book, one of the guys. It's I think. Tribe of Mentors or something, very nice one. And he says he wears a band on his hand which says, I am responsible for uh, I'm responsible for making sure everyone is calm. Yeah. So so I sometimes have to read that myself even when I want to get off and jump on the other side of the table. That my responsibility is to just keep everybody calm,
Do you have any pet phrases that you're known for?
whatever it takes. So I tell them whatever it
And
takes.
what's the other side of that? What's a phrase that people dread hearing from you in a review meeting, say?
So I'd say that if the moment I say this, then they know it's going downhill all the way. That I don't see any initiative. Okay, so that's very important. I mean, initiative is commitment, and I always tell people. So sometimes even my team would get frustrated with people, and sometimes people are slow to learn or whatever. And I tell them, one trait you can never cultivate, which is commitment. Either you're committed or you're not committed. I've never seen a not committed guy become committed. Okay, at least I haven't seen it. So if people are committed, you need to be even more patient with them, because one day when they start coming to that track and they come to your speed, they will deliver exponential returns. So because commitment is inherent, and you think about it, Rohin, when you were in school, when you were in college, either you were committed or you're not committed. You would have phases of maybe 2 3 years of whether you kind of drifted away, but people inherently are either committed or not committed. That's what I've seen generally. So I place a very high premium on if people are committed to what they do.
You're generally a very confident and optimistic person, but what are you paranoid about, if anything?
No, no. So you've got to be paranoid every day. Means I watch means what's happening in the space, like with a it's like a radar watching for incoming enemy flights coming in. I'm a hyper competitive guy. So I'll watch that, and not that I will obsess about the competition too much, but it's extremely important to be cognizant of how things around you are changing, because they're changing very fast.
But what are you looking for competitive action to kind of figure out, like, I mean, in terms of what keeps you up at night, that what are others doing, or
No,
like,
no,
is
no,
there
no.
something that you've missed?
No, no, it's not that. It's basically how can we execute better, faster. It's always that. How can we execute better, faster, different ways? So I suddenly realized that, the voice. So I'd like to speak to my end teams even. So just give you an example. A lot of people find it very surprising. So I got a call from Sonu Shivdasani, who was once the founder of Six Senses, still runs Soneva. And he had a question for me on sales. And my co-founder was on the same call. She said, you've asked the wrong guy. She said, because Sonu, he was asking sales, should they be running their own office in every single international market, or how should they be doing it? And she said, you've asked him a wrong question. Because even today at 10 p.m. every night, if I'm not traveling or if I'm not somewhere else, at 10 p.m., I'll get on a Zoom call with my entire sales team at the Postcard Hotel to just hear them. It's a 20-minute call. They can come in night clothes, whatever. And we just basically talk. So you went out in Bangalore today. What are people saying? Okay, who did you meet? What did they say? So very quick update, but that gives me the voice and the pulse of the customer. So I'm not a CEO sitting up here in Delhi thinking all these big grand things,
So, but
building the,
why did she say that you're asking the wrong person?
because she said that he'll never say outsource it. He likes to run it
Oh,
himself. He's saying this guy gets on a 10 p.m. call every night, and you're
and he's the
asking him.
person who's checking off every single table and room at
Yeah, yeah,
every
yeah,
single
yeah, yeah,
property and stuff like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
So,
So has no one told you that perhaps it's time for you to kind of step back
no,
from
no.
a
So I am
little
actually step
some of the
back.
detail?
No, no. So on the detail, I'm really step back. Honestly, means my team would now tell me that Kapil Ranthambore is now closed. We need you to come in. So that I just don't land up at the site, and I say, so for example, I don't like the floor in one of our wildlife reserves. So they told me, okay, you need to come in. You're not going to like the floor. Okay, so you tell us if you have a problem now. Don't let us lay the floor and tell us then no, change it. Okay, so you tell us now. So I told them I don't like it. So they said, okay, we're going to show you 6 options. You tell us what you like. Okay, that's it. So it's come to a point where it's a yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's not that I am kind of drawing it out or whatever. But again, Rohin, when you're doing a hotel, it's important because the room that you fix is going to stay for 20 years. Yeah, so you need to be very cognizant of what you're building, what's your signature. I think that's really the key. And you really think about it that Oberoi was built like this too. Yeah, Mr. Oberoi was involved in every single detail, even much more than I am. But they have what, 30 hotels in 80 years? We're already at 32. And I think that's a very, very fast ramp up. Because another one thing on a brand is if Rohin becomes a postcard fan, but he can't get a new postcard hotel to go every 3 months. And we think people take a short break every 3 months. So that's your first benchmark to cross. And then it's 2 in 3 months, one in north, one in south. Okay, then it's once a month. Yeah, so if we can get to that.
What does personal time look like for you?
So I would drop my son to school every day, and I would pick
How
him.
old is he?
He
You said your
is
daughter's in college.
daughters in college. So I would try and pick him up in the afternoon if I can. So I do that with him specifically, and then in the evening, I like to go home at a normal time and I start working again much later after he slept off. So yeah, so pretty much I
And
can work
and
anytime.
and weekends, like when you're not working, what do you do?
So again, yesterday I started doing something else because I'll keep on looking at WhatsApp. And I really admire you that you're not on WhatsApp. Okay, for many years, I still remember that conversation 2017. Okay, and so I said yesterday, I was telling my son. I said I am on a digital detox. I will not touch this phone for 2 hours. I won't touch it. Okay, it was Sunday, so I'm not going to touch it. So again, I'm constantly learning a lot. So I'm always constantly challenging my own self. So yeah, so the point is to keep on going away, away, away. But weekends are generally relaxed until unless I'm going out or meeting somebody or having a drink with somebody. It's generally very relaxed. Weekends are generally relaxed. So maybe I'll have one call or two calls. That's it. Nothing major.
You're also an art collector. You had started an art,
It's still there.
a magazine, an
It had an art
e-magazine,
magazine.
yeah,
We
called The
we
Wall.
still we run two we run an art gallery. We run India's largest art platform. I hardly get time for that, Rohin. So that part of my life has now it's got a separate team. I get to see them once a month. Whenever they have a show, I always go for it. I go means this year I could not even go for the India Art Fair. Think about that. So it's still a passion, but again, that passion's really helped me in hotels because from an aesthetic design perspective, I've been able to do that. And where I stay, there are a couple of very senior artists who stay. So, like today morning, I was walking with him and I was saying, why don't we do a Bainale in Kashmir and Srinagar and Ladakh? Let's do a Bainale there. I know there's a Kochi Bainale where we have a beautiful hotel, but why don't we do a Srinagar Kashmir Bainale? So it kind of takes me to a different world, which is art, design, architecture. So which also helps us select some of the best architects in the world. We've had architects walking into our office and our owners love us for it and say, just want to work with you guys at Postcard. Just want to work with you guys because you guys are creating world class
Why is that?
hotels.
It's the possibility of the spaces that you have and the kind of different
The approach that
styles
we
that's
have, and an
possible.
architect also, a creative person needs his creative genius to come out. I think we allow that. So we work with 11 of the top architects in the world actually to be building postcard hotels. The world number one is actually building the postcard Ranthambore and is also doing the postcard Chikmagalur in a coffee state. So two of the hotels are being built by the world's top architectural firm, which has never worked in India before. It's the first. It's the India debut, and it's in two locations, Rajasthan and Chikmagalur, totally separate. A tiger reserve to a coffee state.
Have you geeked out on anything? Have you spent time exploring something
So,
beyond what's normal for you?
I suddenly realized that I need to challenge myself more, and I need to get into strength training. Okay, so I've seriously started doing it, and I was really inspired
How many
by
days a week are you doing?
by Nikhil Kamath and Ankur Variku, because both of them posted their fat free and all that. I said, okay, let me do that, and so I was doing it actually 3 to 4 times a week, and I lost a lot of weight and suddenly, but I started falling ill when I generally don't fall ill, and then I kind of stopped it a bit, and now it's restarted again, but it's like 4 times a week now, strength training. And my point is, I need to get to a six-pack ab situation. Why, I don't know, but I really need to get in, because I really want to I'm very harsh on myself, and I always tell my team that you have to prove it to yourself continuously that you deserve to be where you are, and you have to constantly keep on improving. So the two things that I'm working on right now is digital detox and a six-pack app. So it's a public admission to say that, yeah, suddenly you'll see a new muscle me the next time when we meet.
All right, here's to that. Any interesting books that you've read recently that you'd like to recommend?
So the all-time favorite I have is a book called The Jungle Rules. It defined my life for 8, 10 years. It's the story of Dun and Bradstreet's software, which failed, and he kind of compares it to a tiger's journey on how a tiger hunts and what management lessons you can learn from the tiger. So it's my all-time favorite. Then there are the normal, usual ones, the hard things about hard things and all. Fantastic. Then there's some
What's
really
so
good
great
ones.
about this book? I mean, I must say I've never heard about this book.
Nobody's heard of it. So I kind of heard it because even when I was in school, I used to go to the British Council on Saturdays when it was off and just read books. That book changed my life. Please get it. It's called The Jungle Rules. It's by a guy called John Imlay. He was brought in when Dun and Bradstreet Software was in bankruptcy to make it a $1 billion company many, many years back. And the entire book is about the tiger and how a tiger stalks and how do you need to do goal stalking. You will not be able to keep the book down because it's like a Nat Geo into a management lesson book kind of combined together with the real life insights on people are the key. That if it's not for people, and it's maybe the best management book ever written. And so it kind of defined my life for 7 8 years. And I remember I would do the session before OCLD passed out. All the new management recruits passed out at Oberoi. I would do that session, and I would always do a presentation on the Jungle Rules. So that's been a great book. And but I read so much. I think Tim Ferriss is fantastic. Tools of Titans is a great one. Then Tribe of Mentors is another good one by Tim Ferriss. So I think, yeah. So I read all the time. So yeah. But I always read management. I hardly read fiction.
Why is that?
I don't know. I
Is it because I'll tell you, I mean, I'll confess, right? For the longest time, I didn't do it because I was like, every minute is valuable.
Yes.
If I'm reading something,
Yes. Yeah.
it must be useful.
Yes.
What's the point of reading fiction?
Yeah, yeah. I think exactly the same way. I think exactly the same way, and yeah. So I hardly read. I mean, this just doesn't interest me. But again, so and I've had varied tastes. Well, like art, I'd rather go into an art gallery. Means and if I'm reading mostly management. Reading mostly turnaround stories because there's so much to learn. There's absolutely so much to learn.
What is your belief about, like, I mean, you mentioned strength training right now. What do you think is your fitness goal today? You said six pack.
So that was from a
Yeah, but
strength
that was like
perspective,
a very
yeah.
surface level
But
thing. But
but
how
again,
would you define what
but
your
again, so I think it's to do with everything actually. So uh, my father had an heart issue, so I really get myself checked every 2 years or whatever with a full CT NGO, so you can actually see not just half the heart checkups in this world are kind of useless. So you need to know which checkup you need to go to, and so it's also about keeping yourself calm and everything. So I then basically started alternating my schedule to 3 days strength training and 3 days yoga. So and thought that was more beneficial. It take longer to get to the six pack app thing, but I thought it was more beneficial. So but I still think means if you saw me 2 months back, I'm 6 kgs down. I'm more fitter, more energetic. But again, it's basically full wellness. It's just not actually six pack abs. Is just like a thing to say that can you do it really. It's more to challenge yourself than to kind of show off to the world. I'm not going to take my shirt off and post. So so it's not that. But my other fascination, my big fascination, Rohin, is I believe I was born to eat. So I'm totally into food in a very very significant way.
what's your favorite cuisine or
Everything.
dishes?
I eat
Everything.
everything. I eat everything. Means I had an absolutely amazing meal at Megu last week. The week before that, I had a great dinner with Massimo Bottura, who was in town. Okay, I had a great Italian three-star Michelin meal, and I love chole bhature from Haldiram's too. So I kind of go the entire gamut, and I'm a big food guy, really really big food guy. Means
So if you
I will not
had to
eat
pick,
anything. So for
yeah, yeah.
example, one of the things when I quit Oberoi was like, God, my eating line is gone. So I actually hired a chef who used to work there and said, I'll always take care of you. Come and work with me. So every morning we will discuss what I'm going to eat today. I will just not eat anything. I'm not fussy about food. I can eat anything, but we'll always talk about, hey, let's eat this today. I think let's make this today. So everything is about food actually.
It sounds very much like the Oberoi. I mean, it's the hospitality, the prep of what are we doing today,
Yes,
and that
exactly.
has carried over
Yeah,
to your personal
exactly.
life
No,
as well.
and means I love to eat, and we talked about what we're going to eat today. Okay, how much avocado should he put in? Should it be a different dressing, or should it be? I told him I want a sweet onion dressing. Will be nicer today. Okay, so it's things like that.
How old are you?
I am 51.
What is, have you observed anything from the way your children look and approach at the world versus you when you were their age? I mean, your daughter is in college, your son's in school. How old is he?
He is going to be 10 this year. I think they're much more smarter. And I think one of the best habits that both of them really have is Drisika and Riyansh have is they read a lot, which is absolutely amazing. And whenever I talk to them, and she was always a good kid, and she scored 98 plus percentage in her 12th exams. And I told her, I said, travel the world, see the world. So she was in Amsterdam this weekend. Came back. She studies in Lausanne at EHL, and my thing was see the world, eat well, drink well, learn that part of human relationships. Because what are the career options? I think everything is going to change in the next 10 years. For the longest time in my life, Rohin, I wanted to go to Stanford. I never first had the money, neither did I have the grades. Okay, so I could never go there. But again, I think that's all going to change. Maybe you don't need to go to Stanford, okay, to kind of become what you want to become, for example. But I also think it's a good peer group to go to if you have the opportunity, for her especially. But again, the point I'm trying to make is read, travel, but they're much more smarter than we were at that age, really. But I think they're in a very hyper competitive age too.
What kind of a parent are you? Are you that it's competitive, you need to do well? Like,
So
how
no,
are you with your
no.
son who's in school now?
So no. So I remember with my daughter, we used to have great conversations about career and this and whatever. And I tell her, you need to be more driven, more driven. And then one day she showed me, she says, Dad, let's watch a movie together. So we sat down and we watched Magic Beyond Words, J.K. Rowling. Have you seen that movie?
No, I
It's,
haven't.
please see it. It's on Netflix. It's an absolutely amazing movie. And it's J.K. Rowling's story and how she suffered through her life, a failed marriage, kids early, no money to eat. She was living off food stamps. But her mother, before she dies of sclerosis, says, never give up on your dreams and you love to write. Always write. And she keeps on writing, and then she becomes the number one author in the world. It's her story. It's beautiful, magic beyond words. And after that, I told her, I said, Drisika, I'm never going to tell you
I
what to
get the
do.
point.
I get the point. You do what you want to do. Now she asks me for career advice, and I tell her, so she's doing an internship. She comes here and she interns at DSG Consumer Partners on a venture firm, early stage venture firm. And the reason, and I said, was because you will see the passion of the founders, and that's absolutely amazing. And you will see how to evaluate and everything, and learn that it's got nothing to do with what she does at EHL. And I think so varied experiences for both of them will help them learn more, is what I think. But I'm pretty much cool on. I've never asked them what's your rank, what percentage did you score, because I think it's totally irrelevant.
My last two questions to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your life?
10 out of 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rank your performance as CEO of Postcard Hotels and as a parent?
Oh, that's both are tough. So on a scale of 1 to 10, Postcard Hotel CEO, I think I should rank it. I think my team should rank it. So I have
No, but
no.
you have to rank it. I mean, the question is directed at you.
I think 8 out of 10 maybe.
All
Yeah, I
right.
still think we've
And
done a
as a
good job.
parent?
As a parent, I'd rank myself much lower. I think I should do much more. I have more holidays with them. I have, but kind of all together and whatever. So I think as a parent, you can always be better. Always be better.
What's that number?
7.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kapil.
you, Rohin.
It's been a pleasure having you. First Principles is made possible with the efforts of a wonderful team. Rajiv CN, our resident sound engineer who mixes and masters our sound and audio, and Hari Krishna who produces and researches the episodes. Also, we at First Principles love feedback. So write to us. Tell us what we can improve. How else would we know? Guests we should invite, questions you think we should be asking, even things you find annoying. We'll be sure to read it, and almost always we do reply. You can write to us at fp@theken.com. And while I still have you here, if you love listening to First Principles, please rate us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Please, please, please. On that plaintive note, I'm Rohin Dharmakumar, your host, and I'll see you next Thursday. Stay cool, stay safe.